Let's open our Bibles this morning to the Song of Solomon, chapter 8. If you've ever read or studied Song of Solomon, it is one of the greatest love stories that has ever been written or told. The whole book of Song of Solomon is the story of Solomon falling in love with a young Shunammite lady. It shows some of their courtship. It shows their falling in love. And as they express their love one to another, it gives us God's picture of what a loving couple and what loving people should be. Let's begin reading chapter 8, verse 6. Set me as a seal upon thine heart, as a seal upon thine arm, for love is strong as death. Jealousy is cruel as the grave. The coals thereof are coals of fire, which hath a most vehement flame. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown it. If a man would give all the substance of his house for love, it would utterly be condemned. All the money in the world cannot buy love. My outline is very short. 90% of my outline this morning will be scripture. If you want to read them yourself, I will be more than glad to make you a copy. Take them home, look them up, read them for yourself. I think most people that know me know that I'm a loving person. I am not afraid at all to tell someone, I love you. Yesterday, after the prayer breakfast, one of the people that were here, I've known him for years, and we talked for a while after everyone left, and when he got ready to leave, we hug each other and we say, I love you, brother. I'm not ashamed to say I love you. I wish more people would learn to say that. I wish more people would not, who was it? Was it devotion or was it Sunday school? I don't remember. You know, we should not be afraid of what people might say. Oh, he told her he loved her. Well, what was the context? You know, I'm one that thinks that as Christians, we ought to show our love one for another. Now, my outline, I'm going to stick fairly close with it. First of all, my first main point will be love itself. Then, secondly, we will look at many characteristics of love. How do I know if I'm in love or if I'm just in love? We'll look at the characteristics of the real thing. Thirdly, we'll look at the tenderness of love. And I will hopefully show you some things. Then, fourth, we will look at how to build love. And I'll go ahead and say it now, but I'll say it when I get to this point. I've heard, well, our love just died. And some of you that have been here for a long time, you know my answer. Love does not die. You have to kill it. And we'll look at that, how we can kill love. Then we will look at how Satan destroys love. One of the greatest things Satan can do is to get husband and wife out of sorts with each other, to get one member of the church out of sorts with the other members, because if we're bickering and fighting and fussing, and I'm not speaking to you, and I don't like you, we're going to have a very ineffective church. Then last of all, have you lost your love? First of all, let's look at love itself. When I thought of love in preparing the message, I thought of its beauty and its charm. We had a couple when I was pastoring up in Ohio. We had a couple, and I forgot how old they were when I was pastor there, but they were old. They were in their 60s or 70s, somewhere close to 80, I think. You know, one of those really old couples. I'm kidding, of course. But they were an older couple. God never blessed them with children. So it was Dave and Helen. No children, no relatives close by. They had been married for, I'm sure some would say forever. So picture this, no matter where you saw them, they were holding hands. When they looked at each other, they looked like a couple of teenagers in love for the first time. Now, they've been married 40, 50 years plus, and they still looked at each other as if they were teenagers falling in love. I always having a loving family and friends until you see people that aren't blessed with that. I've seen more than my share of domestic violence. I've seen more than my share of child abuse. I have seen more than most people ever see of a home that had no love in it at all. I have known people who dreaded going home because of the atmosphere that was there. They dread going home. Love should be going home for me is the highlight of that day. It's the highlight of going home and being with my wife, and when our kids come over, it's like, it's a wonderful experience. It's wonderful to love and be loved. Did you know that much depression is caused by people feeling no one loves them? I remember a lady years ago. It wasn't here, so it was in another state, another church. But she came by the office one day and she started crying. She was miserable. And to look at her, her husband was very wealthy. All she had to say is, I think I would really, I think I need a new car. Boom, the next day he's out buying a brand new car for her. I wonder how it would be to have a mink coat. Next day, she had a full-length mink coat. My engagement ring's a little small. Next day, he's got the biggest diamond ring that money could buy. And she sat in my office and said, I would give up everything I own if he would express his love to me. Now, in his defense, he thought love was buying her everything she wanted, when what she really wanted was him. I mean, if you looked at her, she had financially everything you could ever hope for. But that did not bring happiness. Much depression is a feeling that nobody loves me or cares for me. Now, I've heard that a gazillion times, and it's usually not true. The problem is not that we don't love them, it's just that we never express it. We never show it. We never demonstrate love in action. I thought of what Jesus said, or in the Bible, it's more blessed to give than to receive. We think that means money and gifts and presents. But I think it also includes love. The gentleman I was talking to yesterday, if I called his name, many of you would know him instantly. I've known him for years, and I can testify firsthand, he loves to give. I mean, he delights in giving. He told me something yesterday I did not know, and I've known him for years, but he said he used to own his own company, and he almost went bankrupt. You know why? And it's probably not what you're thinking. He would go to someone's home and he had a fixed hourly rate. This is my rate. I can fix whatever it is. This is what I charge. But then, especially older people, when I got done and I'm making out my bill, it's like they're living on Social Security. They have fixed income. My bill was $500. I'm only going to charge them $150. And he said, I love doing that. But that didn't pay the bills. And finally, he sold his company, went to work for someone else. But the more you give, especially of love, the more you receive. Nobody loves me. Well, have you tried expressing love to them? Too many people want to receive, but they don't want to give. Love, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in church, whether it's in friendship, you must give before you expect to receive. Now, moving quickly, let's look at some characteristics of love. And I've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way down to N. ever how many that is, all Scripture. Listen carefully. 1 Corinthians 13. I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but it's the love chapter. Love is kind. Love is, and you can read the description. Some of you know this because I've said it at least 1,000 times. Those are not adjectives. They are adverbs. Now, you're a school teacher. I'm not going to put you on the I'm not going to embarrass you. But do you know the difference between an adverb and an adjective? I hope so. If not, we'll talk about your classes later. An adjective describes how you feel. An adverb describes action. Read 1 Corinthians 13 and think love is kind. That's an action. Love does kind deeds. Read every one of those as an adverb. And you'll find out love is more than just, I love you. It's action. It's doing. It's putting your feelings into action. Thank you. He read my mind. Galatians chapter 29. We find the story of Jacob who went to find a bride. He met Rachel, whom he immediately loved. And back then, the husband had to buy his bride or give something to the father in exchange for the bride. And so Rachel's father said, "Tell you what, I don't want money. You work for me for 7 years, and I will give you my daughter in marriage." In verse 20, Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had to her. Now, he worked, we find out later, from sun up to sundown, often overnight, guarding sheep, taking care of sheep, in hot, in cold. He worked for 7 years, and they seemed like a couple of days because of his love for Rachel. Thank you, Papa. Get used to that. Song of Solomon, chapter 1. Solomon starts out, "Behold." Now he's courting the young lady. "Behold, thou art fair, my love. Behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove's eyes." Now immediately you're thinking, how do dove's eyes look fair? When my wife and I got married, we decided we were going to read Song of Solomon together every evening. We were going to start and read through Song of Solomon, and we started, and we got into it, and it's like, you look like a flock of lambs. And it's like, I don't get it. We didn't finish the book at that time, because to us, your neck is like a tall tower. Okay, if I said, honey, your neck looks like a tall tower, I probably would be sleeping in the guest room for a while. In our language, that would not necessarily be your eyes are, I don't remember what Solomon said. Reminded me, guy told his wife one time, don't try this, men. It'll get you in trouble. Your teeth are like stars. They come out at night. Don't try that, men. Don't try it on your wife when she gets back. But Solomon's description of this beautiful young lady would not fit in our language today. But when was the last time you told your wife, have I told you lately how beautiful you are? Have I told you lately how much I love you? Have I told you lately how thankful I am that God brought you my way? People ask me occasionally, what's the greatest thing that's ever happened in your life? And I don't even have to think about it. Number one, the greatest thing that ever happened in my life was when God saved me. Number two was when I married my wife. Two greatest things that ever happened in my whole life. Now, I've had a lot of great moments, but when God saved me and then gave me my wife, those were the two greatest things that ever happened. But he describes her, behold, thou art fair. Honey, you are beautiful. When I was young, I would read Abraham, how that he would say to Sarah, honey, you are so beautiful, they're going to kill me so they can have you. She was around 80 years old at that time. I can understand. My wife's got a long way to go to get 80. But I can understand how that Abraham could look at her and say, honey, you are so beautiful that the king will kill me so that he can marry you. I can appreciate that. I am blessed with a beautiful wife in more ways than one. But he said, thou art fair. In chapter 2, as the lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. Now, we have people that take care of the flowers out front, do a wonderful job. Can you imagine a rose bush growing up in a field of weeds? He said, honey, you're like a lily growing up among thorns. Do you feel that way about your wife? I hope so. Then he moves on down in chapter 4, verse 10. How fair is thy love, my sister, my spouse. She was his sister spiritually. She was his spouse physically. How fair is thy love. In chapter 8, the verse that we read in chapter 8 and in verse 6, love is strong as death. In other words, I would rather die than give up her love. Jealousy is cruel, but many waters cannot quench love. I've got to hurry because nothing can drown love if you're willing to work at it. People find out I've been married 54 years last week. What's the secret? What's the secret to a long marriage? And I say, you want my funny version or my serious version? Most of them will say, give me both. Love will be tried. Things will come along that will try your love, like many waters swooping down, overflowing, overflooding. But if it's true love, and I usually tell them, love requires work. It's like a beautiful garden. It still gets weeds, and you got to constantly keep pulling those weeds out. Well, many waters, neither can the floods drown it. Romans chapter 12, let love be without dissimulation, without hypocrisy. Chapter 12, verse 10, be kindly affectioned one to another. Now, this is addressed to the church. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honor preferring one another. Now, a gentleman yesterday, like I say, we sat and talked for almost 2 hours, just talking about different things. He was sharing some things going on that he knows about. Can you imagine a church where everybody loved everybody else more than they loved themselves? I said, I struggle with that verse, that we're to love our neighbor as ourselves, and that's the same kind of love that God has for you and I. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love. In Romans 13, love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Love doesn't stab you in the back when you turn around. Love doesn't run you down when you do something wrong. How many of you have never made a mistake? Anybody dare raise their hand? Because if you do, I'm going to call you a liar. You know what? I have made more than my share of mistakes. But love worketh no ill. Even when I make a mistake, and I told you the other night about 2 preachers that would not hesitate to call me out and call me down. Love in the church and in the home worketh no ill to his neighbor. Ephesians 4:15 speaking the truth in love. Well, what I said was true. Maybe it was. But did you speak it with genuine love for that individual? You see, I read an article this morning in a church paper I get, and the article was, there are saints and there are ain'ts. Some are saints, some ain't. And it was a whole article on that. Yeah, we speak the truth. But keep your mouth shut unless you can speak that truth in genuine love toward the individual. Hebrews 10:24. Let us consider one another, again, in a church setting. Let us consider one another to provoke unto love and good works. What can I do as a member of this church to encourage you to love others and to do more for the cause of Christ? Hebrews 13, let brotherly love continue. How many of you had siblings? I had one older brother. He was my only brother. I tell everybody when they had me, they quit because they finally reached perfection, so they quit. But growing up, my brother and I did not always agree on a lot of things. But though I was 4 years younger, did some really stupid things, I didn't know it till I was grown. We were both in Bible college together. He went to bat for me many times, and I didn't even know it. I was the kid everybody picked on in school. I don't know why, sweet, lovable me. There was a group of boys who decided one day they were going to get me on the way home. We had to walk, because if you lived within a mile, you had to walk. The bus wouldn't pick you up. So they were going to get me on the way home and whoop me good. My brother found out, went to them, and told them, you lay one finger on my brother and you will answer to me. They never gave me another bit of problem. I didn't know that. He did that on numerous occasions. Let brotherly love continue within the church. If anybody is going to defend other members, it ought to be we who are saved and God has brought us together and made us one body. Love is tender. And I'm still on page 1. May have to come back to this one later. Most of you know my health. And by the way, I'm not getting any better. I'm actually losing my voice. Within another 3 or 4 years, I may not be able to talk. And my wife is going 365 times 4. Okay, one more day off, one more day off. But ever since, I've not been able to walk very well. My balance is way off. You know, when they operated on my back, they did something and and I have horrible balance. That's why I stumble and fall so much. And my wife, when we're together and we're out somewhere and I'm walking, she will take me by the arm and hold my arm because she doesn't want me to fall. She will help me, hold me. Sometimes it's like, you're embarrassing me. You make me look like I'm an invalid or something. Honey, you are. Accept it. She's tender. When I'm sitting, and most of you know, getting up and down with my leg, getting up and sitting down is extremely difficult. And it's like I'll be sitting and I'll go to get up. What do you want? I'm just going to get a drink. No, you sit down. I know how hard it is for you to get up. I'll get it. Honey, I can get it myself. Thank you. Tender, compassionate, caring, tender-hearted. We should be that way with others, family, and members of the church. How do we build love? You know what? I am not going to make it. That's a major point. We'll pause and pick that up maybe next week. But remember, how do I build love? Our love is on the downside. What can we do to renew it? I'll give you several things there. And then what happens? How do so many marriages end up in divorce? Of people that started out genuinely thinking they were in love. How do years later they end up in divorce? I'll show you how Satan destroys love. And then I will give you a test. How